Welcome, everyone, once again, wherever you are. I'm in Ontario, Canada, and I am here with Conversations with Sandra, compassionate queen of straight talk. So happy today to have another book author. Yes, I'm writing my book. Yes, my guest is writing her book, and we have met in Kellen's book writing group. I want you to welcome Kaylee Fields Williams. Who are you and where are you from?
Thanks so much, Sandra. That was awesome. Who am I? Oh my goodness. We'll get to that, I guess,
Alrighty.
in due time. Let's start off with where I am. So I'm right now in Oakland, California. I live here in the Bay Area with my family, 4 kids and my husband, Paul. We've been here for the last 4 years, I think. But originally, Paul and I are both from Indiana, but we've been a lot of places in between since leaving Indiana years ago. But yeah,
And
we're
four children. How old are your children?
Yes. So my eldest is 17 and is about to head to college this fall. I have a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 11-year-old, my baby.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Are you the baby of your own family as well or not?
I am definitely not the baby. I'm one of 3 girls and I'm the middle child. Very quintessential middle child.
I'm the baby of the family.
Oh my goodness.
It's really interesting because I became a real good people pleaser, and entertain everybody, so nobody had abandoned me.
It's so true. And you probably weren't, given the chance to be abandoned. I just told my 11-year-old, I squeezed her. She was on a overnight trip for one day, right? One day. And I picked her up and I squeezed her. I'm like, you can never leave me again. We love the babies.
Well, I was the fourth of 4 out on the
Okay.
farm, so mom was very busy. I don't know if she had time to worry about if I got lost.
Exactly. That's so true. That's your older siblings were raising you.
No, not really. I don't. That's going to be in my book. Anyhow, it's really interesting to go back and. Anyhow, this is not about my book, but it is about all of this experience of writing the book.
Yes.
And I'm just going to get you to fill in. I've got a little bit here about you.
Mhm.
A transformational coach strategist. That's a mouthful. You don't want to say it fast 10 times. And a digital mental health strategist.
Right.
I mean, here's a digit, but I'm not sure what a digital mental health strategist is. And the founder of the Earthy Executive. Now, that one I tuned in with, the Earthy Executive.
That's right.
Grassroots executive coach is what I would say that is. But tell me about the Earthy Executive.
Yeah. So the Earthy Executive was really born out of my own deep professional and personal transformation, really. The idea behind it was to create, a platform that was grounded, really, where, we could help folks really get to a place of understanding who they are as a fundamental, and then helping them to figure out where they would like to be from that place,
Okay.
and kind of guiding them along that trip. I love the idea of groundedness. I love the idea of elevation too, and personal agency. And the idea that when we do express ourselves fully and have that agency, ultimately, in my view, that leads to community benefit, and that leads to the person really becoming the leader that folks kind of look to as as wanting to be. So it benefits everybody, not just the person, but the community and the world, I think.
The world. It
Yeah.
is. It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I have to, before we leave that, since I had my finger up there for the digit, what is digital whatever that was, digital
Yeah.
mental health.
Yeah, digital mental health is just, mental health application that's online for the most part. So I've worked for the past 6 years for a company called Headspace, and Headspace provided digital mental health, so mental health support to individuals online. So on Zoom, text-based coaching, which was the function that I was primarily worked in. So I am a coach, trained, licensed behavioral health coach. At Headspace, my role there primarily was leading teams of coaches and of managers to perform those tasks. So yeah, it's just a fancy way of saying, online support, either mental health support or coaching support, or using doing workshops or courses and getting mental health support. So, yeah.
Okay. This is industry speak, is what I'm going to say, because
Industry speak, yes.
the rest of us wouldn't have understood what on earth you're talking about. So
Yeah,
it's an industry thing. That's what I'm
right.
saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah.
Now, I was quite fascinated. I had that lined up. Rooted in blends the depth of mental health expertise.
Yeah.
But I was looking at your background and I don't know where I put that.
Mm, there's
Oh, yes, all that variety of background.
Yeah.
You were on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell us a bit about all these different careers you've had.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it is. I'm an old pioneer, so I can say, oh, I've gone through this career, this career, this career. And I
Yeah.
found it fascinating, but I obviously didn't put it over there in the, oh, maybe I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe I
What
can
about
frame
this?
it.
A background that spans continents and industries. Here we go, from tracking poachers in Costa Rica
Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
to singing in a gold record German girl band,
Mm-hmm.
a blend of adventure, mindfulness, and strategic insight.
Yeah. So maybe
Okay, I just found that fascinating. I'm glad I came across it, found it.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe it would be helpful to frame this in, around the book that I'm writing, because it's very, very, very relevant here. So, as you explained to the audience earlier, we know each other from being in the same book writing cohort. I'm working on a book that's tentatively called The Inner Trail to Outer Freedom right now. And the idea behind that is, well, for one, it comes from my own experience navigating, very rapid and very varied personal and professional changes, some of which you've mentioned already. I, I mentioned also that I have spent the last several years of my career at Headspace. Well, this past November, my role at Headspace was eliminated, and so I found myself at this sort of crossroads of confronting uncertainty. I had been at this place for many years, and so then, I was now in the space of questioning who I was without the stability of a defined position, like I had at Headspace. So initially, I began to sort of recognize how, the myths that I had internalized about identity and about success and about what career progression was. I'd been in this role. Right before that role, I had been a stay-at-home mom for many years. So, and which was a whole other transition.
Yes.
A career definitely gave me that stability, and I wrapped myself fully around that, and until it was upended this past November. But I think, more importantly, that process really helped me to reflect and realize something else. And that was, I really have a superpower around the ability to shift roles and positions and perspectives, almost like a chameleon during times of uncertainty. And it really took me a while to recognize that as a superpower. For years, I sort of saw that as kind of, flaky or uncertain. And I didn't know what I really wanted to be when I grew up, and had all of these sort of stories in my head about why, I wasn't able to sort of be in one career and sort of stay the course, why, I was, moved to Costa Rica. So Costa Rica came about where I was in undergraduate school, and I was at this school, had no idea, like many kids in college, no idea what I wanted to do, why I was there. Was spending a lot of money, not knowing what I wanted to do, except for the one thing that I knew that I wanted to do was to live in another country and learn Spanish. And this is many, many years ago now. This is well over 20 years ago now. And so I, was taking a Spanish class at the time, and went to one of my professor's office hours and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving out of the country and moving, learning Spanish. Where should I go? Mexico?" And he said, maybe not Mexico, but let's sit down and chat. Longer story short, he introduced me to Costa Rica. At 19 or 18, I think I was at the time. I had no idea even where Costa Rica was.
Right.
And so he very, very graciously connected me with his sister and her family who lived there at the time. So I left school and moved back home to Indiana, worked for the next 4 months to save up some money, and got on a plane that January with $500 in my pocket and one way ticket to Costa Rica. And and yeah, and there.
That's so much fun. I got to do that these last 20 years instead, so I got to do it on the other end of my life.
On the other end, which is great too. And I definitely am planning on doing more of it for sure. But
well, I can't really. I had my daughter was 15 months old. We got transferred to Germany, so we spent 3.5 years in Europe as well. So that was on the early end. So I got to do it on the early end, and then again on the last 20 years.
Fantastic. I am such an advocate of, for people living out of the country or just out of their own comfort zone, like actually in a place that's not, what they're used to, as a way to accelerate growth.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So
there you were in Costa Rica.
There I was in Costa Rica, and, in being there for sure had its ups and downs and growth moments. And yes, I spent some time tracking illegal loggers and poachers in the rainforest, amongst a myriad of other crazy roles and
beautiful
things that I had going on. But I think the bigger point is I really embrace the idea of leaning towards that which you're interested in, that which you're curious about, really. And along the way, you like I said, you definitely grow at a more accelerated pace when you are sort of dropped into the unknown. But I learned, from Costa Rica to returning and becoming a licensed massage therapist and working with cancer patients in the hospital, to becoming a therapist, and going to graduate school for that, and then coaching, and then, the digital mental health and whatnot. I recognized that, I had, many stories to tell about how I was able and am able to make changes, almost effortlessly. And then that, coupled with my professional expertise as a coach, where, much of, my career has been built around sort of helping folks navigate change, that, I might have some insight here that I can help lend to those who have found themselves and find themselves, especially today, in positions of, having to make a change that they
Mhm.
didn't necessarily foresee, or wanting to make a change that they maybe, haven't sort of garnered the courage to have. Or, I also work with early stage startups who are, trying to sort out and get their footing. Startups specifically in the digital mental health and coaching space. And I, talk with them about how to, really think about and conceptualize an offering with the value that they would like to bring into the world, and based on their own experiences. So
I know. I heard you going, or into this, or into this, or into this. I think with the travel experience and the changes of careers that we've both
mhm,
had, it's interesting because I'm the old gal and here you are the young gal,
mm,
and very similar, with
mhm,
so many life experiences that it's hard to pick out, like, which area am I going to work in?
yeah,
Because all of them blend together.
yeah,
The clients I work with, they say, well, I can't do that because I have to do that and I have to do that. And I
mhm,
said, well, who are you when you're doing that? Oh, yeah. And who are you when you're doing this? Oh, yeah. And you're
yeah,
only one. It's all the same stuff. But it's so hard to market it
yeah.
separately and still be all the same thing.
For sure, for sure. And I'd say I'm a work in progress there.
We all are.
Certainly, certainly, no great wisdom there. Just, I think my approach is, which is the first step of the process that I created, the T.R.A.I.L method, is to try, and the T is for
Yes.
try. So I am an advocate, and maybe because in a lot of ways, um, I do tend to jump in with both feet. And
Mhm.
so, and I see where I see the benefit of doing that.
Yeah.
In some way, in some instances, I'm terrified, and I don't necessarily jump in with both feet. And I start with the R, which is reflection. And I sit in the reflection and the thinking, and it becomes analysis paralysis. And I'm not comfortable sort of moving from that space and even going back to, trying. And so, um, I think it's a matter of just recognizing, when something comes up that sort of piques your curiosity. Um, of recognizing, where you are,
Mhm.
along, is it a resistance towards just giving it a go, or, or do you give it a go and you can't sustain the
I
momentum,
know.
or, where you are along that pathway. But
Well, that's the wonderful thing with Kellen, isn't it?
yeah,
That he knew this project of writing a book in a condensed amount of time was
yes,
going to need that superpower that we were going to have to be able to call on.
yes,
And
yes,
that, is going from the try to the reflection, oh, into some action. Oh man,
yes,
okay, try this.
for
we
sure, for sure, for sure. I
So
appreciate that. So
your book has the trail through it, or what's your book teaching people? Because really, after we tell our story, we're going to show them how we got where we got to. What are you
yes.
going to show them about how you got where you got to?
Yeah. So the book, in general, sort of is I look at it as a practical guide.
Mhm,
So yes, it does. It will have the T.R.A.I.L method, but it's composed of what I think are pretty heartfelt stories, um,
mhm,
based on my own experience and those experiences of clients who I've worked with in the past. Um, it will, as I said, encompass the T.R.A.I.L method, and I'll use that framework to help the readers move beyond that place of feeling stuck, and um, hopefully, I truly think will help them to create tangible and meaningful transformation out of confusion,
right?
really. and into more clarity around who they are, around what they want, and around how to get there.
I'm just doing a decluttering course right now.
Oh,
Six sessions. We've done 2. Tomorrow will be the 3rd one.
oh,
And
how's that
really,
going?
actually, what it's focused on at the beginning was, we had to look at what we wanted to clean up, but we're really also looking at why we even have it and why the trouble is to clean it out. So as you were talking about the chaos, I was thinking about clutter and change
Yes.
here. And
Yes.
what we want, but what's holding us back. So I was just kind of recognizing, okay, life is the same no matter what we're doing.
100%. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And so what I have, I've got a paper collection, piles and piles and piles of paper and books,
Uh-huh.
paper and books.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I'm realizing, because I'm looking at, I don't know if I can get rid of that, I haven't
Yes.
started it. How am I going to do that? And
Yeah.
you know what I've been reflecting on? So as it goes to there, a lot of my work gets done up here before it ever starts showing up.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And at my age, I have this sadness because I'm resigned to the fact that I am getting old and
Mhm.
I'm not going to do certain things.
Yeah.
I want to go to India and Uganda, but I'm really not sure if I've got that long trip in me again.
Yeah.
I've been to all
Yep.
of those places.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I hitch around on my cane and sometimes my leg hurts so bad. And I'm thinking, Sandra, there's that sadness and grief that comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the stuff. So, I mean, you're younger, so you wouldn't have those same griefs. But anybody that's stuck in that chaos,
Yeah.
there's a grief underneath, a fear of something. I mean, you were the middle child.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You were the
Yeah.
middle child. What do you worry about as the middle child? You're kind of the invisible one. You don't belong either biggest or littlest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, the middle child, I think it was, I was kind of, my mother was kind of fortunate in that I was the middle child because I'm definitely independent sort. And so I was fine not being fussed over and given the free range to do whatever. I think
Yeah.
that was kind of the blessing of my position as the middle child and when I was born. But you did hit on something that is very fascinating, and it's that grief process, because that's very, very, very real when we're looking to make a change.
Hmm.
And as you mentioned, depending on the stage that we are in life, that grief is going to look very different. I mentioned earlier that I have a child who's graduating this year,
Mm.
and our oldest, and so my husband and I, and maybe me a little bit more as a mom, I don't know, but I definitely have moments where I think about, she's not going to be here in our house every day as she was,
Sure.
as she has been for the past 17 years. And definitely have moments of grief and sadness that, wash over me a bit around that. And as I watch my other children kind of grow into, who they are to become, it's, a little bit of nostalgia from, thinking about them as little toddlers and wanting me all the time, to now being teenagers and
And pushing you away as they're supposed to do,
as they're
have
supposed
to
to
go
do,
out in the world. Yeah. If we do
for
the
sure.
mothering job,
For sure. But
they leave.
what I think is beautiful about, also about grief, if is that, what it's a natural part of change, as the seasons are, right? It's a very, very natural part. And, if we can allow ourselves the space
Hmm.
to really feel that, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, how powerful is it to really connect with our own sadness and allow that ultimately to help us connect with others. Um,
And that's how the transformation happens, isn't it?
yeah.
The transformation happens with that deep inner work, no matter what
Yep.
stage we're at.
Mhm.
Has nothing to do with me and my age or you and your stage. It's just that change. Could you imagine a world that it didn't change?
Yeah, no. I don't know
No.
that, yeah. I no.
When people say, "Oh, I don't like change," well, of course you do. Just
Yeah.
watch a new restaurant go up in town. Oh, the new restaurant going up in town. Like, really?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't like change, or you just want the same old ones. And as they get a little more tired, you're always going to just be at McDonald's because it was exciting as a kid and it never changes. And
Yeah.
you're only going to be at McDonald's. Like,
Yeah.
we want change, and we're not admitting it
Yeah.
unless we start to be aware of the world around us.
Well, I mean, in fairness, it's a very scary thought. I'll be honest and say, when I was let go, or my role was eliminated in November, look, I knew months before that the writing was on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that things were sort of shifting internally and within the company, and I knew that I was not really living my authentic life, and not being there and working there. But it took me being pushed out, like almost pushed out of the nest, to
Right.
before I, decided, or to make a change. And for a lot of us, it does take that, unfortunately. I
I
mean,
think it takes it for most, I'm
for
going
most,
to say most of us, probably all of us.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It's a hard thing to do. People do it for sure, but
Yeah.
it's a very tough thing to do. And what I hope uh, my book will allow people is the room to, kind of see again through my experience and through the experience of the clients whose stories I bring to the book, that it's not, I guess normalizing that change is not easy, but also providing them very simple, uncomplicated steps to that they can take and implement, if they choose to, and when they choose to.
That's right. I mean, that's the magic of the book. I just love the way that we are coached along in the creation, but we are all so different,
Yeah.
but we're all so creative.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so the tagline, you've got the inner trail to outer freedom. And what was the tagline for that?
I think that's still to be determined, but it will be pretty basic. Like I said, I'm hoping that this will be, you know, um, as much, kind of narratives in learning from story, um, as it will be like just a step-by-step guide. I really want this to be pared down, basic, no frills, no tricks. In fact, the trail that I create isn't. It's a loop. So am a big hiker, and always appreciate a good loop, because you're not having to double back and and
Right.
go back to the beginning, but you can just keep walking. And as I'm sure, very often, those challenges that we come up against, it almost feels like in life, the challenges that we come up against in life, sometimes it feels like, God, I've been here before. Like, why haven't I learned this before, this lesson? And it's likely just because, I don't think it's a lack of having not learned it before, but it's the opportunity to learn it in a sort of deeper way,
Yeah.
where it's able to really, really ground really ground you, and again, like, help you to connect to others who you might not, otherwise, connect with. I think it's, well,
Yeah,
that's
no, I mean, it's really the hero's journey, isn't it? Your book, my book, every book, if it's not just, reading, writing, arithmetic, if it's going to have a journey in there, the hero's journey is
yes,
going to be going out and exploring all the things in your trail there. You're trying and reflecting and wiggling around to find what aligns, and then working that into life. And the last one was to lead. And
that's
then
right.
you just get out there leading, and there's somebody else that's leading something else. So we go off, and so we keep this trail going,
That's right.
others coming behind us, but we're following somebody else. Those
That's
big
right.
shoulders that we're standing on is just incredible. Now,
That's
I think of that hero's journey and your trail as looping around and around and around. We keep doing the same things, but we've got new material and we move it up at a higher level.
Right, right.
And the hero's journey is truly we go and do all of these things
Yeah,
only to come home to
I
ourselves.
love that. Yes,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
just forget who said that. I certainly didn't create it, but that's the journey back home.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And
And we keep coming back home as we go. Each trail
absolutely,
brings us back, and so it goes deeper.
absolutely, absolutely. And the home ultimately for me, I mean, not to get, not to get, morbid or about it at all, but I really look at it as less of a upward journey and more of a grounded journey, because ultimately, I'm going to be dead and buried and at some point, and really in my mind, going back to the earth is the ultimate, gift. And
Mhm.
not that not that I want that to happen anytime soon, but it's inevitable,
Mhm.
will happen.
I've
um,
got my eye on 105, so
yeah.
I've got another career in me. That's why I'm writing the book and
Sure.
doing the coaching.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
However, if ends tomorrow, I call it crossing the veil. And
Yeah,
I think we still have more work to do. We'll get over there and rest up a little bit and carry on with our work, just
that's
in a
right.
different form. But it'll be,
That's
that's what I believe. And people say, well, I don't believe this and this and this. That's okay. Believe whatever sustains you.
Mhm, mhm.
And the looping that you're talking about, not going loopy, but the looping.
I mean, I don't know, that may be a part of it from time to time, going a little bit loopy. I'm
That
okay
adds
with
a little laugh here and there.
loopy, a little flavor, a little spice, right? Little s
Oh dear. This has been absolutely delightful.
Oh, yes, it has, it has. This has been a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
How has your writing this book, I know we're not finished yet, we're still into it. How has this been changing
Mm,
your life?
it's a
Why are
great
you grateful about writing the book?
Yeah, it's a great question, and, because and I like how you rephrased that in the end of where how am I have I been grateful about it, because initially, when I think of writing, I and this is coming from a writing ma I was a writing major in undergrad,
Oh,
um,
wow.
but, writing is torturous. It's so torturous, for me, I think because, I really want to, um I really want to, get it out, and I really
Mhm,
want and I hope that I can get it out in the way that it is in here. We have this sort of idea of what we want to communicate, um, and so sometimes there's all this buildup of anxiety about doing it right. But I think that the process so far for me has been liberating. For one, Kellen's phenomenal. He's just like, no BS, like just freaking write it. Like you don't need to make it mean, you know, anything other than you are writing words on a page, or you're sharing the love that you have for whoever wants to take and accept it. And period. Like and so I love his no nonsense, sort of pared down encouragement and frame of what writing a book is. I love
mhm.
the deadlines and the fact that, okay, I need to do something by this time, and I know that I'm going to have, something at this time, like an end product. But I guess to answer your question more specifically, like what am I grateful for and how it's sort of worked through me, is really taking the time to step back and reflect on, one, what my stories are, what my experiences are. It helps me reflect on the legacy that I would like to leave for my kids. I'm thinking again about my oldest, Zora, and I would love for this to be somewhat of a guide even for her, or a record for what her mom and my other kids, what their mom was able to give and contribute and share, based on my experience. So I'm very grateful for having the time and space to really reflect and think back on my stories and my voice, and share it with those people and that person who's out there waiting for me to speak, and to take a little bit of wisdom from what I have to say, and use it for themselves. So
Yeah, that's what I find too, like with Kellen and Joy both, as we each of us take our turn saying, "Oh my goodness,
yeah,
oh my goodness," and Joy would say, "But you're much further ahead than you realize. You just don't see how far you are." And
yeah,
Kellen would say, "No, you've got it. Use the tools, move into it."
yeah.
And we can read a book. I mean, we could read his story arc book, and there's all the thing there. Go write your book. But the same as your coaching and my coaching, and what we need Kellen and Joy for,
Yeah.
is somebody to hold our hand and move us forward. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's really doesn't matter. We all need a coach, and we've all had coaches and mentors throughout our lives. And
100%.
yes,
100%. We all need, literally everybody, I believe everybody needs a coach. I grew up, I was a sports kid, so I've had sports coaches for a good chunk of my childhood and life. And definitely have had those coaches who were transformational for me, who really, I think back, and, in some ways they saved me from myself a lot.
that's right.
And so I, similarly, I look at coaches as, those folks who are able to see you and reflect back to you what you maybe aren't seeing in yourself in that moment, whether it's, you're doing the work and you're not quite seeing it, and you need them to say, hey, yeah, actually, you're doing a lot.
Yeah, yeah. We don't see it. We don't see it.
Yeah.
And just as humans, we don't see it. We can't see ourselves because we're looking out, so we can't see
Exactly.
ourselves looking in. It's
100%. 100%.
anyhow, it's an absolute delight having you here, and it's wonderful being connected in this book writing with Kellen and Joy. And what would you like to have for your final words for our audience?
Oh my gosh. For my final words, let's see. Gosh, I can say anything.
You can say anything.
No, I would just say thanks for listening, and also just if you'd like to chat with me further, feel free to reach out to me anytime through email. I think you'll probably share that in the show notes. Just my name at Gmail right now, at gmail.com.
Or LinkedIn will be easy as well. They have my name, Kaylee Fields Williams.
LinkedIn is probably easier. I live there, so definitely send me a DM. And if you are right now, our coaching offerings, I am the principal coach at the Earthy Executive, but we do have plans in the future to scale and to bring coaches on board. So we're, I definitely, if you're interested in kind of share a similar ethos as, what I described around the Earthy Executive, just keep, look out for us, and send me a line, and I'd love to chat with you further and see how you might be able to, join forces.
Right. Yeah, we're all a wonderful gang, and it's just been an absolute delight. So I'm thinking we probably need to let these people go to bed or get their coffee finished. Thank you so much, Kaylee.
Okay, you can go to bed.
We'll get Kellen to listen to the end, and he can clip out and have us as a duo.
Sounds great. It's been great. This has been a lot of fun.
It has. It's been wonderful. That's. I'm just going to say good night, and you can say good night, good day.